And we've got an awesome guest today. Miles, why don't you introduce Dr. Ray?
Dr. Ray, who gets obviously the fun doctor all the time.
Yes, I do. It's actually Doctor, but it sounds more fun the other way.
It does. Doctor.
But people actually don't hear it. They're like, "What?" So,
Yeah, it trips them up a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I was thinking about a fun way to introduce it, and I have your book here, which is freaking amazing. I finished it yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thanks. Like,
really, really good. Yeah,
honestly, I really appreciate that because people say that they will get it, but they don't, or they look at a quick chapter and that's it. But you actually bought the
yeah, I read it.
book. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, took notes and everything. It's good. I was like thinking of a good way to introduce you as either you say it or read the blurb on the back, which is actually quite good. I don't what's cool for. Do you have a cool elevators pitch?
No, you can read that. That's cool.
All right, this thing's great. Ray Doktor Saidi has been a life and relationship coach since 1995, assisting more than 6,000 clients to transcend limiting beliefs and face life's hurdles, enhancing their confidence, self-trust, and happiness for better individual and family well-being. He holds a doctorate in clinical psychology, a master's in counseling psychology, and a bachelor's in human behavior. Ray's unique and powerful approach to coaching blends his expertise with techniques like neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, EMDR, and ancient practices such as Qigong and meditation to offer a holistic approach to mental health.
Thank you. It's
Boom.
it's short and gets to the point.
It does. We
Yeah.
have a similar thing too. I have an undergrad in psych, a master's in psych, and a PhD in psych. So it's different specialties, but yeah,
Cool.
similar
Awesome.
logic.
Well, I've got so many relationship questions for you, Doc. I'm so excited that you're coming on because I'm 2 years into a really good thing and I don't want to mess it up. So thank God you're here.
Cool. How open are you to sharing aspects of that? Because more than often hosts will start talking around it. I'm like, let's just get right into it. Let's get a free coaching session on this podcast.
Boom.
Well, I love it. Well, I'm working on my openness, so it's perfect timing. Yeah, no, I'm 2 years into a relationship. We were long distance for about eight, let's call it the first year, and then we're going on a year of cohabitation. So, things are going really well, but as you evolve the relationship, you grow together. You also get some more friction, which is really exciting. And of course, we're both going through our own individual transformations as well. So, yeah,
Well, when
I
you live together, you get to see more aspects of yourself that is reflected in your partner. So it's hard to
oh,
hide.
Yes.
so true. They exactly. She asked me really great questions about why I leave things all over the house, or hey, are you through with that? Oh, then put it back. That type of conversation. But we have a great opposites attract situation. In general, she's Taurus. She's very calm, very cozy, or very wants to like slow down, wants to enjoy life. I'm just full of fire and constantly on the go and wanting to take on the next task or project. So we foster these things in each other, in a very when we're doing it right, we're both encouraging each other in the right way to be a little bit more balanced. And when we're not doing it right, we're sort of stepping on each other. And like I feel frustrated at like lost momentum, or she'll like want me to slow down, or even just this is how, neurotic I am. She'll give me a hug that lasts like 12 seconds instead of six. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, that's enough. I need to get going, do the next
Tap
thing.
out. Tap out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And
Well, for the fact that you actually count it, that could be concerning. I mean, dude, what do you got? Like your a watch? Now you're like, okay, we're good to go.
oh, yeah, that's right. And that's what I noticed is that to your point of your partner reflects back to you what's going on and things about yourself. It's like I never am this affectionate. I'm never this like calm and chill. Like I don't just sit around for half a day and do nothing. And so I could see my agita as it arises. And no, I'm noticing it. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. And like, what the fact that that's my friction point is so interesting. And I was, you know, pulling Dr. Miles before you got on. I was like, what does that say about me that I'm just irritated at the thought or the idea of slowing down?
Yeah, well, I'm going to share something with you, and that is so there's a possible chance that she's not using words that's clear for you, like an instruction manual of what it is that she is yearning for. As an example, if this like way of being, like being in a hurry, is creating a disconnect for her, or she feels like you're already off to next thing rather than being there with her, those moments when she can finally actually say hello or goodbye, or this moment where she feels maybe more connected to you, plus when you're having sex. So what happens is that sometimes I notice it's a generalization, but women will more celebrate and compliment, or they'll talk about what you're doing well because for them, they might listen to feedback as criticism. Whereas with you, particularly, I'm going to assume you like feedback because it helps you grow. If you were to have a clear instruction that would help you create, say, more of that connection for her to where you felt ease and it was simpler rather than these comments here and there, you might be able to show up better. And so sometimes what ends up happening when I start working with coach with couples, the man, typically the man, will turn to his partner and go, "Why didn't you just tell me that?"
Yes.
And then she says, "I did," but she not in a way where he understood.
Right.
So there could be something under, that is underneath that. She just wanted your presence. Whereas with you, I'm very similar. I'm very fiery. That's the masculine. We don't like to just sit in a space of just create and process and so forth. Once we experience contrast, such as we failed at something or our timing was poor, we try to figure out what we could do better next time, and then we're off to that next action. We want to go out there and do it. Whereas with more the feminine, and this is not to men or women, it's just in that space of feelings, it's more sitting with it still. So you're kind of like me, you go right to let's do it, let's try it. That excites you, that expansion, which is a great quality.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I definitely agree. I like that part of myself, but I also feel I feel out of balance in moments. And you said something too about presence. And that
Mhm.
leads me to the question that I was going to ask on your ask you anyway. And so you brought it up. And one of the things you say you help couples with, or specifically men, is a lack of presence in their life or relationship. And uh, I'm I don't even know how you would define that. I'm not sure how I would define it, I guess, but you're the man. So what do you mean by that?
Presence?
Yeah, so when you're on the list of things that you help people with, one of them was emotional outbursts, being agitated or snippy with your family, and lack of presence.
Yeah. Well, so presence for me is the experience of being aware of my breath, to even on this interview, am I perspiring? Is my armpits wet? To am I talking over you or am I allowing you to talk as well? To recognizing the temperature of this room, and to where if I feel nervousness or I feel anger or I feel some sense of urgency, I know something's happening within me, and therefore it's maybe going to come out in my communication. And so presence is with all things in that moment to your best ability. And when you're able to have that much body awareness, you also know that what I'm feeling in this moment probably isn't either real or true, or I can take pause before I speak and see whether or not it's relevant for this moment. And so what ends up happening with people who are not present, they're quickly eating their food. Therefore, they're malnourished because they're not really properly breaking down the food. Uh, when they're not present to, say, making that win, whether it's getting the deal like the signature, or just looking at their bank account and there's money coming in, they might go into, I got to do something else. Therefore, it's never enough. They're never satisfied. And even with the courtship, and I've been this way too, where I'm attracted to a woman, and a lot of it is still like in my lower chakras, or where it's very sexual and very primal, to where when we finally have sex, that I find myself maybe not as attracted to the situation because I wasn't present to everything else, her heart, what she had to say about her family, to everything else. And so very often I see more with men, they're missing a lot of different things, which is why gaming or distractions like that could like take over their lives because they're not used to just sitting with the stillness. And when you're able to sit with the stillness, which could be also recognizing that behind the anger is hopelessness and frustration, that nothing gets fixed until the next time that man, say, gets into a relationship or another job or anything else, they self-sabotage it. So we have to be able to sit with that, not forever, but to be with it because we know it will pass.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
love
that's well said.
Nice. So there's a lot. You that was a very dense response, uh,
Yeah.
for sure. But you mentioned kind of part of it is part of presence is receiving the information from the moment, whether it's bodily sensation, whether it's
Mhm.
environmental, emotional, parsing out what's relevant and what, what's contributing to the experience that you're having and want to have, whether there are people around or not, how to integrate the useful and the not as useful. And then part of it is just the raw receiving of the sensations and the whether it's the win from a successful action or the negative emotion that just boils up from stillness and being with
Mhm.
it as well. So it's
Yeah.
sort of the ability to do all of those things. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. It's basically being able to stay in the eye of the hurricane of, say, a shitty moment, or to be able to experience beautiful moments. As an example, my girlfriend was at my house this weekend. Our sons are close in age. There wasn't really much she had to do because, particularly when they're in my home, things just go the right way. And so, as parents, a typical parent might go, "Oh," and they don't allow that moment to really be experienced with joy. Like we actually, they took off, the kids took off, we went in the bedroom, we had great sex. I mean, because we are connecting as much as we can. We still flirt with each other. We don't
Mm.
get caught up with the task in hand or always being in that parent role. It's where
Mm.
we're aware that, wait a minute, I'm still a sexual being. I
Mm.
still love my partner. We're parents and also lovers at the same time.
Mm.
So when you stay present to your body and to what your preferences are, you won't lose yourself in the task in hand.
Mm.
So it's more like, wait a minute, I've been working really, hard at this thing, and no wonder why, like, I haven't played with my son this whole week, or I'm starting to talk snippy. Oh shit, I haven't been at the gym in 8 days. It's like that. We know that. Like I need to get to the gym. I need to get outside. I need movement in my life. And when I don't, I notice I listen, I hear my son in ways that are more negative. Like I interpret it in a more negative way versus with curiosity. So
Mm.
presence kind of puts you in that space of neutrality, so where
Mm.
you can receive things more as just information versus conspiring against you to where you get defensive.
Mm. That's a really good way to look at it. Yeah, it's sort of a neutrality. I do like that.
Like when I'm assuming you both might have a girlfriend, wife, or whatever, when they're like, when you leave your stuff out there, blah, 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 you can hear it as, well, you do too. You could get defensive.
Right.
You can feel like she's going to get mad rather than if she is just embodying her femininity and expressing what she's feeling at that moment. She's just sharing that now moment that she has another preference. She's not saying you're a fucking asshole, you disgust me or whatever else. But oftentimes if we're stressed out
Mhm.
or we're like not resting or not going to the gym, we might hear it as, this is just one more thing I had to hear today that I didn't like versus, oh, this is my partner and we're in a relationship, which means we're relating to each other, particularly if we're living together. So for us to coexist, we have to have a voice.
Right. And you can't hear it, listeners, but Miles and I are nodding along with the good
The
doctor.
bobblehead.
And so we're very much like, yes. And what I love about what you're saying too, is that compassion for others begins with compassion for ourselves. Like if we're not giving
Yes.
ourselves the time to rest or to exercise and play, then it's very difficult to get in that compassionate space for people who need our attention and our energy because we haven't
Yeah.
first given it to ourselves. So it's a great.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned something about, stuff being left out. It's funny because I'm a stickler about that too, particularly because I have a child. And what's interesting is that it's really simple, and particularly with, the younger generation. I mean, because it was much different when I grew up. If I kept leaving stuff out, I'd either get spanked or that stuff would end up in a trash can. Whereas just and from a very innocent standpoint, if a child plays and for whatever reason their toys go back into the box, that's all they know. If a child eats food, they leave their dirty napkin out or whatever, somehow it ends up in a trash or it's removed. So most of us, when we're children, we're very clueless to how the house remains clean. We just show up and like, hey, my stuff is put away. And so then when we become adults, there could be this idea that it'll happen as well. And to where, if you don't put away stuff within a week, it piles up. And so it doesn't mean a person's a slob or they're intentionally trying to avoid putting stuff away. It might be something that's not practiced or understood. And I've worked with younger couples where the house is messy and they're professionals and they're saying, well, she doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. I'm like, well, you both had mothers who cleaned it up. So hire a maid. Done. You make enough money, problems resolved. And sure, that's what resolves it. They hire someone every other Friday. So it's like it's a couple when they're in that transparent space and not blame that they're going to bump up against these things because they're now living together. Even though they maybe have specific ideas of where they want to be in the relationship, such as maybe they get married and have children, they still have to exist with each other's habits.
Mhm.
That's why it can be more difficult to live with someone versus just date.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Like my girlfriend, she puts fucking cups everywhere. Like I don't, oh, and my son too, he's like copying me now. I'm like, oh God, don't take on this habit. But it's just more like I said, I don't care if you use cups, just have your spot so you can go to it. So it's like so with just one visit within like maybe 4 to 6 hours, she might use 3 cups. Well, I don't want to wash 2 extra ones. I'd rather just have one. So, but am I going to cock block myself over that?
Right,
You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I have a preference, but versus it's like, so she's gotten better at it, but or at least my son now is riding her ass about it. But like it's not a big deal to her. And so, but those little things can add up if those habits actually are deal breakers, such as I couldn't be living with someone who is blasting the news 6, 7 a.m. in the morning,
Mm.
or my morning time to wake up to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and you'll be depressed anyway. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the fact that they believe the news, I'd be questioning that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's like I remember. I don't know why I'm going here, but I remember just getting. It was like my first phone call, and I'm sure where you post this, you might get some negative comments, and I'm okay with that if you're okay with it. And it was just we met on same Bumble or a dating app, And then she was on a phone and she had kids in her car also. She was pulling out the McDonald's. And when I heard she was ordering food from McDonald's, that was a deal breaker for me. I didn't say anything, but
Mm,
the fact that you've been educated about how bad this food
mm,
is and you're feeding it to your kid, like we've been being misaligned because I eat organic. You
mhm.
know, on a complete opposite side of the spectrum. So for me, food is like truly my lifestyle. Good,
Mhm.
healthy food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amen. No, it's that's right. Appreciate you saying that. And Jim Gaffigan, he has a bit about that. If you're a fan of his comedy, he's like, I tell people I eat from McDonald's, and they all give me the same look. They go, "Oh, I didn't know I was better than you."
That's funny. Yeah, he's a pretty funny guy. Yeah. Yeah,
You
it's not
nailed
judging the person, but like there's a big mismatch that's going to happen in a home. And I have a child, so you're not
Yeah.
going to feed my son that crap.
Yeah, you got to be aligned in some areas, or there will be deal breakers at some point for sure.
Yes.
Well, you've got you got the finger on the pulse for me and my relationship. You're doing the Lord's work. Do you have any specific questions, or do you just want him to continue to give me therapy, Miles?
It's kind of nice for me
You
not
guys didn't even want to do a podcast with me. You just want to get a free coaching session. It's
to.
cheaper.
Exactly.
We're not actually recording.
Okay.
Well, after reading your book, it's like, yeah, that would actually be fun. Um, I'm thinking about our audience, and Josh had this question too. We're mostly, according to the analytics this far, we're mostly men, but we do have women. And in your book, you talk a lot about the hero's journey, and I love that. I love that archetypal monomyth. And I think it will attract women as well, but there's something about the hero that I think attracts men.
Mhm.
Is that something you use when you work with men, like walking them through what that looks like archetypally for them, metaphorically for them?
Like for you, Miles, because you like that, we would probably use that
Okay.
because it helps you kind of make sense of it all. Because I know that you've been through challenges where there's a path. It's where after maybe the fifth wife that just left us, or after we lost the 10th job in a row, or we keep relocating and everyone seems to hate us wherever we go, there's this point we kind of go, maybe it is me.
Mm,
And that's the first step of like, okay, I'm going to go on this path. Well, on your way to that path to get better, you're going to hit maybe a block. And then when you hit that block, you might meet someone who pushed through that invisible wall to where that's the new information. That's like Merlin giving you new information. You continue your journey. But
mhm,
whenever we arrive to, say, breaking through that barricade, life is going to present always new challenges. So there's always this cycle we go through to grow.
mhm,
And it doesn't have to be where it's like it's after a divorce or losing your job. It could be simpler than that. It could be where I was impatient at the grocery store. I was rude to the checkout clerk. How can I do that better next time?
mhm,
And I'd be where, oh, I didn't do my morning rituals that day, to I looked at my phone and started answering text messages they were kind of more negative. Okay, that kind of set up my day. I'll do better. And you
mhm,
just move past that and you learn. You become
mhm,
kinder. So it could be there's many examples we could push through, but particularly with men, I don't know how much it has to do with just because of who we are, like, our physical bodies or the movies that we've seen. Like, for example, my hero was Indiana Jones because he got the women, he was adventurous, he was intelligent, he was a doctor.
mhm,
Uh, you know what I mean? And he also said F you to the system.
mhm,
I mean, that's all those, he embodied all those characteristics. And so, that became like, I try to embody that kind of masculinity, that to be also intelligent, not just all muscular and so forth.
right, right.
So I think with men, they gravitate towards more of that path because I think in general, like we find our way through challenges. We find our way by, say, going into the forest away from everyone and being
Mm,
a recluse for a little bit, right?
yes.
Like for us, like this, I know this upsets women, but if they can really hear it, particularly like wives, they would, until we work together,
Mhm,
they would get really offended when the husband, he gets some days off of work and he says, I want to go fishing. And she's
Right.
like, don't you want to take us to Disneyland? Oh, hell no. He wants to quiet his mind. He wants to integrate, what's been going on in his life. And he
Integrate.
wants to bring it back to his wife, the new version of himself. I
That's
shared
it.
with every woman, I said, like, you need to let the man rediscover himself. He needs to get out. And then, of
Mhm.
course, women will go, oh, well, he's going to cheat, blah, blah, blah. No, no, then you're with the wrong man. I'm talking about a
Right.
healthy man who goes to the gym or is self-reflective or reads some type of self-help books, who communicates well. It's where this is how they find themselves. Whereas I notice more with feminine people, it's through talking, it's
Mm.
through connection, it's by coming together.
Mhm.
Whereas we men, while we like that, we like to connect to other brothers.
Mhm.
We love to be by ourselves a lot too.
Sure.
It allows us to think.
Yeah, super important. And that the integration piece is
Yeah.
spot on. Like we really need to do that. And I like how you said in your book also sometimes we can, as I don't know if you met men in general, we can not integrate and sort of do like the seminar junkie thing where we jump from one thing to the next or read the next self-help book and get that dopamine hit, but not digest what's really going on. I thought that was really
Yes.
important. And maybe some part of the shadow being ignored that way or bypassed.
Well, I notice with also the more immature masculine is that we get very excited about things. Like we get excited about the new shiny thing. Maybe women do as well. And to where if it could be easy and effortless and we don't have to work so hard toward it, then of course we want to replicate that because we're gonna move in a direction of pleasure. So the idea that we have to do inner work and talk about things that we don't like, we
Mhm.
might have an aversion to that. We might like feel like that feels like a lot of work, and I don't understand what the point would be is to purposely make myself feel good in order to make myself feel better in the long run.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
That
then
kind
oh, go ahead.
that kind of coincides with you, Josh, where I talked about being able to sit with stuff. Being able to sit with stuff for a moment and then moving forward because I'm pretty quick with it.
Sure.
Yes.
You say you're quick with it, Doc. You mean like you um find integration to be a fairly seamless process for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The book, if you really use it as a workbook, and I'm not trying to promote my book here on this podcast,
Go for it. It's great.
but
It can be a workbook.
it actually, I mean, that's after 30 years of working with people and just trying to find the simplest way to explain how the structure of consciousness works. So if you go through all the processes that are in that book, you should arrive to a better sense of self or what it means to be your authentic self. Because most people in relationships are in relationships and don't even know why. They usually say the basics, and that is, I want a companion, I want sex, I want someone to talk to, but it's never, I want someone to see my shadows in my light. I want someone to love me more than I love myself when I'm really down on myself. I want someone to maybe give me a different perspective on the same things that we're experiencing because I have a tendency to be maybe a little more negative, or I still have the outdated programs that my parents taught me. I mean,
Right.
it does. So if we don't want someone exactly like us. We want someone who can reflect both the light and dark in us, and that we have that healthy container where we can communicate about it so we both can grow together.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, beautifully said.
absolutely right. That's what you just came on to our podcast so that we could build up your self-esteem, Doc. You just wanted to know how right you were. Uh, but that's the truth.
How did you know?
We're reflecting back to you.
It's the it's difficult to explain to people. I was married before and I got a divorce and I was married to a really nice person and I was a good person. I think all those things you're saying I didn't have the language for, and there was so much inner work that I hadn't done that I didn't really even know how to be authentic or to ask for what I needed or even I mean I was so stunted in my personal emotional development that I think that any of those healthy conflicts you're talking about where someone reflects back to you, what they're saying. I didn't have space for that because I lacked so much self-awareness that I would just project onto my ex-wife, and she wouldn't really have the tools either to communicate with me. So uh, all these things you're saying sound so easy and sound so clear the way they roll off your tongue. But when you're in the moment and you're battling with somebody, or you're blaming, or you're not taking responsibility, it doesn't feel like these are all, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to develop or for me to learn something about myself.
Yeah, you're right. That's why when you do it either with a coach or intentionally, I'll give you an example. And one of my heroes is Bruce Lee, and he has been for a very long time. You should actually see my hair, what it looked like when I was 11 years old, because it was very similar. And
Nice.
I was into martial arts as well, but it's more into his life philosophy. So early on, I was exposed to the Tao Te Ching because that's what a lot of his teachings are derived from. And he was all about feedback. And I'll give you an example. And I'm going to probably botch this story, but I'll share it to my best ability. So when he was starting a studio here and it was going well, I guess people in China wanted to close him down because, first off, he's not full-blooded Chinese, but he also created a more hybrid version of it. So he was challenged to where they would get their best fighter and fight him. And if he were to win, he can keep his studio. If he were to lose, of course, he would have to surrender it. And this really happened. You usually only see this stuff in the movies. And this is shared by Shannon Lee, who's his daughter.
Mm.
And he fought the guy and just kicked the guy's ass really
Mm.
quickly, but
Mhm.
he was running out of breath. The guy ran from him, so he's chasing him. And so, when he won the fight, people came to him and they were trying to celebrate him, but he was writing in a journal. He didn't seem to be that happy. And the reason was this: he recognized he was out of shape, that he needed to add more stuff to his workout routines. I would say he was the first MMA fighter in a way to where he incorporated yoga and other things to be the ultimate fighter because he said, in a street fight, I would have got my ass kicked.
Mm.
I didn't have the endurance. So that's when he expanded his martial arts from that feedback, even though it was a victory. And so the pro athletes do that all the time. They watch a recording of what they did really well, but also how they failed. And that's the only way we can learn. And if we can all embrace that, it would be amazing. So it's like being able to create a healthy container for ourselves to receive our partner. So you mentioned it's hard to do it in real time, which is true. But if you're doing it at least twice a week with yourself, then you're used to the idea that you're not perfect. You're used to the idea that you are here to grow. Therefore, when you get feedback, you might be actually excited because you're somewhat yearning for it so you can prove your relationship. Also, if your partner is happier, it's fucking working. And when
Boom.
we see the benefits, like the positive outcomes, we're gonna keep doing that thing, right?
Mhm.
No, I love
Absolutely.
it. That's exactly right. Yeah. And this, I have one more question. I mean, I have 1,000 more questions, but I want to give people a chance to figure out where to find you. But or something that you need to cultivate in order to do that is you have to be comfortable with difficult emotions and comfortable with like the discomfort of um not pleasing your partner or not pleasing yourself even, when it comes to these situations. And how do you cultivate you call it equanimity, I think, when it comes to teaching people, or what are some like light dumbbells for the purposes of getting comfortable with uncomfortable emotions around relationships?
So in my book, there maybe it's in chapter 1 or 2. It's funny, um, and because I don't remember the exact spot, but I don't sit there and look at my book every day. Uh, is it the questions? There's 10 questions, and the questions are: what did love feel like in your home? What did you come to know about love? To when was love taken away from you? It's basically the question of like, what have you come to know about love? And most people have a negative association. Therefore, they have internalized that, and you have a negative relationship with yourself. Does that make sense? It's internalized. So if you heal that, when someone like your partner tries to correct you, it's not going to that unhealed space within yourself that judges yourself. It's also when you recognize that there's no such thing as perfection, just growth, and expansion, then you also have the idea that you didn't mess this up. This is an opportunity. So it starts with yourself. That's what it really means. What does love mean to me? And I know this sounds really simple, but it's the most important, because if you can't love yourself, you will not be able to receive the love from your partner. If you don't love yourself, eventually you're going to find fault in your partner. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to even understand or respect her boundaries because you don't respect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to love yourself, not in a narcissistic way, because that's not true love, but you have to truly love yourself to experience an epic relationship. You have to love yourself to receive that. Otherwise, you'll just constantly project.
Mm-hmm.
An example would be this. I've had, I moved to another state, and there was more challenges that were being thrown my way, but it was, say, the perfect storm. And my girlfriend, she's a coach also. She's been doing it for 20 years.
Awesome.
And so stuff was coming up that just irritated the shit out of me. And I wanted her to fix this way of communicating, this certain, say, whatever it was. And I remember it was like a Friday, and my son was at his mother's, and it's like our weekend without the kids to have fun. And I noticed that moment of like, I want her to fix this thing, but this thing I want her to fix isn't inherently destroying a relationship. It's how I feel about it that's destroying the relationship. It's how I allow it to make me feel that is creating a problem versus, it even having any true weight, because she innocently was using this communication. It wasn't against me. So in that moment, I took pause, and she said, "Do you even want me to come over?" And I just said, if I was an idiot, I would just totally cock block myself to be right. I'd rather feel good right now rather than be right.
Right.
Of course, I want you to come over. And I don't even want to talk about this thing. This is something we can shelf and talk about. It's something that might take some process because she has like some programming that she experienced with her parents.
Sure.
So when we get in a relationship, we're going to come with the way we behave that maybe doesn't really work. As an example, do you pick up that I could be probably pretty intense?
You're pretty
In a good way.
excitable.
Okay, all right.
Way, yeah.
Okay, and so I was also raised by a Marine. My father was a Marine for 30 years, fought in World War II, the Korean
Semper
War,
Fi.
3 tours in Vietnam. So my dad spoke with a really loud voice, and he had a lot of intensity. And so when I'm passionate, my voice can go up, and it can scare people. But what if I kept sharing with my girlfriend, what do you expect? I was raised by a New York Jew from the Bronx who was also in the Marines. Like, what do you expect? No,
Right.
she's a soft woman, but also strong. She wants to hear a little bit more softness. So even though I want her to accept this part of me or not take it personally, I want to work on it because my son experiences it also.
Yes.
So it's not something, it's not new to me that I'm hearing this from her. I've heard this from other women also. Like, are you mad at me because you're very loud? I'm like,
Mm.
So I grew up with that. If you're around my brothers, we talk this way. No one gets offended.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're around other families, it might trip them out a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're sort of healing the generational wounds. I think you spoke about that in your book a little bit too, which is great.
Yes.
When
And
you're asking a better question than am I right? You're asking, is this creating the results that I want to live with?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
much more sophisticated place to come from. So what I'm sure you talked about in your book, I didn't, I'll get it from Miles once he lets it out of his paws. Um, what was the trigger for you to go down this road as a career path?
Um, I don't think there was a trigger. It's been a kind of forever unfolding process. It's even what I wrote in the book, and that is where I've had two near-death experiences. So I think I started thinking differently about people and spirituality. While people were still questioning whether or not there's a heaven and hell, I was already like in a space of, no, there's a higher power, and I'm fearless to that. So I never had death anxiety, but that also led to uh, I was very intuitive. I dabbled into drugs and alcohol. Um, I I ended up getting after my second DUI. Uh, my counselor Jim said to me, and he said that, I don't know if you have a drinking problem, but you create a lot of problems when you drink, which was true. And that led to therapy. And I guess you could say that I just became more insightful and interested in this. And the true awakening happened, which I wrote about in a book, was I was on tour as a dancer, and a woman named Marcy, she, I had a moment where I got frustrated because I just wanted to be with her, and she was going to bring a friend, and I thought, I was in my 20s, I was just thinking about myself and my penis. This friend's going to cock block me. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was a young
sure,
man,
sure.
and Marcy responded with, if that's how you feel, it's okay. Like, she didn't come at me. She was so calm. And then I got off the phone, and I thought to myself, oh my God, she didn't like add gasoline to the fire. And I called her back, and I liked her spirit so much. I said, come on by, come over. And it did go well. Her friend ended up with my friend, and we're still in each other's lives, but she bought me the book, You Can Heal Your Life. And that's where the real journey began. And that's when I started getting into more metaphysics. And I started practicing those principles, and my life just started getting better. And when I say better, like, I'm in a really good financial position. I'm in really good health. I have a really great relationship. I don't have a lot of drama in my life. I'm 55. I have a lot more energy than most 20-year-olds. So,
Look at that.
like, the food's working that I'm, consuming, and the lifestyle I'm doing seems to support me. So,
Yeah.
And well, I love that. So there's a secret tip in there is say yes to life by saying yes to a nice first date. That's good.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Um,
Yeah, they also call us wounded healers in this field, and so you definitely get that. And in your book, you even at a young age, you had some rough experiences with would you call them the Forrest Gump? Um,
Oh, I was born with my legs crooked and turned in, and I had braces to pull them out.
pull 'em out. Yeah.
And I had it up until, like, I think the beginning of first grade.
Hmm.
See, I was made fun of. I was called Gimp. What was the other? I don't know, cripple. It was strange.
Hmm.
Kids were mean, and I looked a lot more Japanese. Uh, when I was younger, as I became an adult, I looked less Asian, but I also was in a conservative area with mostly white people. So
Hmm.
I experienced a lot of things like that early on in my life. So
Yeah,
it made me who I am.
absolutely. And then you said when you took those off, you actually launched yourself in sports and actually propelled.
Oh yeah, yeah. The only thing is that because I didn't do the inner work, with each trophy or each accomplishment, it still wasn't enough. So
Right.
winning at things was not hard for me. It was being satisfied
Mm.
with the process, which was what I had to learn.
Hmm.
Even a book, when I it didn't take me a super long time, and even before I became a bestseller, uh, I was talking to my marketing team. I said that I just want to have fun this time through this process.
Yes.
I have an album out also, I think in 2001 or 2002, and that I got on 5 different radio stations. And because I was less integrated and knew this stuff, I mean, it was such a stressful experience
Mm.
and it wasn't that fun
Hmm.
creating that. And so, kind of like George Foreman. George Foreman talks about like when he fought Muhammad Ali and he lost, like he felt like a piece of shit for a while, and he kept his head down. And then, even when he was at the top of his game, he wasn't present. He was like out of shape. And then when he hit his late 30s and decided to go a second time to be the heavyweight champion of the world the second time, he talks about that. There's this beautiful quote, and he said, when I would run in mountains, I smelt the fresh air. I saw the birds. I saw the beauty. Like he's way more integrated. He had a near-death experience. He became a pastor, but he talks about that. And even his first fight, that he brought his trainer back, and his whole angle back when he was younger was anger. He had so much anger. He was an angry young man. And what was interesting is his trainer was afraid because he's smiling, he's like calm. And he said to his trainer, he said, this time we're going to do it my way. I'm a different person. I'm not that person anymore. And sure enough, you'll see some of the fights in the 90s when he was just beating the shit out of people. He was like looking at the ref saying, stop the fight. He didn't want to do it anymore. He was just, Big George was just, it was kind of like he still had his power.
Hmm.
And even when he won, you'll see him drop to his knees and he just prays to Jesus. It's kind of a beautiful thing. But the point of that is just like, when you get older, when you maybe get wiser, you recognize that you don't have to work so hard, you have to remain in your heart in the process.
Hmm.
Amen.
You have to be present.
That's
Yeah.
a great message for men too, because I think those are two scary places for us to go.
Yeah.
Well, and you're speaking exactly to what I was writing in my journal this morning is exactly the same. I think you're secretly, not so secretly, we scheduled you here, Doc, so I could get right in my mind. So thank you so much for the ad hoc therapy session. Hopefully we can move some books and promote your work. How do people find you? Where do you want them to look you up at?
Well, I don't know what links you'll provide, but I'll say the website. My website is raydoktor.com. So raydoktor.com is a website that I've had forever. And on there are links to a group coaching experience that people can have that where they can witness some real coaching, and before their eyes. It's that starts up very soon. Also if they're interested in my book, I'll provide a link for you also to get that. At the moment, you can get it, I think, for free still on for the Kindle version. But it's a quick, simple read also that can help people get to what we were talking about, at least what I'm speaking about, because everything I've become is in my book. Of course, there's more modalities. And when I couldn't sit there and put in writing exactly what I do, I have a book 2 already in the works and a book 3.
Nice.
So, but the first book is really about breaking down the structure of consciousness in a very simple way. Like, I don't know if you read the reviews on Amazon, but if you want to give me a review, that'd be great. But look
Oh, for sure.
most people talk about it in a it's very simple to get to the point. So even though it's dense, like it's only like 170 pages, and I cut out all the fat so people can experience some type of transformation.
Yeah, and I like all the sentence stems you put in there with the journaling exercises. That's
Yes.
helpful just to contemplate them. It's called All It Takes Is One. This for people that are listening that didn't see me just show the book.
Yeah, it's all it takes is one. Drop your one big hidden belief and master your life. And the premise of that is most of us have an unconscious like one belief about ourselves that's blocking everything. And if you remove that one belief, your entire life can change.
There we go.
You're here. Oh man. Well, I'm stoked that we got a chance to talk. I've got a lot of your wisdom already written down. I'm gonna devour your book, and I'm so glad that you're doing this work, and apparently been an OG in this field where it's sort of the men's health space is experiencing a renaissance of people talking about how to have healthy relationships, how to take care of yourself, this sort of stuff that I feel like 20 years ago wasn't as much of a mainstream topic, but people like you are blazing the trail. So thank you so much for
Thank
what
you.
appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, hopefully the men can receive the value from it and they don't just hear it in their head, but they actually do the work because it's everything.
Yes.
It's everything. You
Yeah.
can create the life you want to live.
Yeah. Amen.
Oh
And you
yeah.
do have an Instagram too. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we'll get it all in there. Well, hopefully we can have you back sometime, and when book 2 comes out and book 3, we talk more. That'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Or if you just have another topic you would like to, talk about, if you want to talk about healing trauma, what that can look like to open up PTSD, like what that really means. There's many topics in which we can have fun to explore. And if people, like for example, if people, you notice a lot of people are asking similar questions, and you got a whole list there, and they want to ask me, throw me on another show, and I'll answer those questions.
Heck
And
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it
Sweet.
round robin. Yeah, that's you're very generous. Thanks so much, Doc, for your time and your expertise.
thank you.